Okay, I think we're back. Welcome back, everyone, for our very last week of this Pali class instruction. I believe this is class number 18 of 19. And so we have certainly come a very long way. And we are currently now finishing up the Giảng Tilaka lesson for further readings, and we will have a look today at the lesson 5 initial readings and the grammar. I'm glad that we've arrived at lesson 5 grammar because it seems that it sort of ties up a lot of loose ends, that it addresses a few things that we've been talking about all along in this class in a sort of more formal and systematic way. And so, without any further ado, let me share my screen and call up our text. And so I hope you can see my screen. Diane, are you there? Perhaps not. Diane? Well, I hope you can see my screen. Diane doesn't seem available at this moment.
I couldn't find the unmute button.
Okay. Are you
Got
able to
too
see
many
my screen?
screens open. Yes, I can see it, and I can see it in YouTube too. For
Very,
the
very
first
good.
time in days.
Excellent. Okay, so now we are having a look at a text, once again from the Anguttara Nikaya, the numerical discourses. And this is the Book of Fives, the Panchaka Nipata. Pancha, remember, is the number 5. And this is a section about the king, the Rajavaga, Rajavago. And so here we have a section called the Patama Chak Anuvatan Sutang. So that probably means something like the first continuing to turn the wheel sutta. So let me start reading. So this would be, I guess, number 131. Panchahi bhikkhave angehi samanagato raja chakavati dameneva chakang pavateti tanghoti chakang apativatyang kenachi manusabhutena pachatikena panina. And so there's several interesting things going on in here. And so we can start with our subject, our nominatives, which are Raja Chakavati. And so a Raja is a king. This is an irregular noun. It's, I believe it's declined off of 3 bases. So it's highly irregular, but this is in fact the nominative singular, a king, Raja. I think a queen would be Rajini. And the king is described as a Chakavatin. And so this is a class of nouns that we haven't formally looked at. They end in in, I-N. And this is also the nominative of that class. If you want to look in your textbook for the full declension, you can see, I believe, this whole chart on page 84. And so the idea of the wheel turning monarch, that's what the Raja Chakravati is certainly an ancient India idea. And it's not limited to Buddhism, but the symbol of the wheel has most certainly become one of Buddhism, and we see it a lot. And so the Raja Chakravati, so Chakra is wheel. We know, perhaps in the West even, the Sanskrit word for chakra, which is chakra. It has sort of come into our kind of mass consciousness from yoga schools, perhaps, chakra. But that ra sound doesn't work so well in Pali, so it smooths out to chakra, and a vatin would be a turner. So this wheel-turning monarch, samanagato, we've had this many times. It means endowed with, or having. And we recall that this word, takes the instrumental to describe with what, because with is instrumental. And so with what? Panchahi angehi. So panchahi is our number 5 in the instrumental. And angehi is the word anga, which means quality here, and also in the instrumental. So panchahi, endowed with panchahi angehi, endowed with 5 qualities, damin eva chakang pavateti. So here, pavateti sets in motion the chakang, which is the wheel, damena, which would be by the dhamma in the instrumental, and it's elided, put together with this eva, which I think gives the sense of solely or just by dhamma. So putting this clause together one more time, we have the wheel-turning monarch, Raja Chakravati, endowed panchahi angehi with 5 qualities, O monks. And the verb sets in motion or turns the wheel, a wheel by Dhamma or with Dhamma, solely or justly. Tang hoti chakang apativatyam. So here, that wheel which is apativatyang, so this is an adjective matching chakang, and it is by which cannot be turned back, and then kenachi, which is by anyone. So this is an indefinite pronoun. We can recognize it as this indefinite pronouns are made up of interrogative pronouns with this chi clitic tacked on to it. So ena, of course, is our instrumental. And then with this chi, kenachi would be by anyone, indefinite pronoun. And then we have this interesting phrase, which is a little tricky to translate. I've put it in green. By whom? The question, of course, is manusa bhutena pachatikena panina. And so a manusa, we all know, is a person, but it has this strange sort of suffix, bhutena. And so we should know, first of all, that the suffix bhuta is the past participle of the verb bhavati. And so having been, having become, or acting as. And so by anyone, and then literally has the sense of acting as a human. And so I would take, in fact, to make sense of this, these words, these 2 words as a group. Pachatikena means by any opponent. So by any appointment, we could say in human form, manusa bhutena. Or I noticed that Venerable Bodhi translates these 2 words as by any hostile creature in human form. So in fact, if you look in our dictionary under manusa, you will find an entry with the bhuta suffix. So like in a human form, or acting as a human. And then also we have this word panina. And so a panin, maybe I'll write it here, P-A-N-I-N, but it should have a long A. The panin, this is another one of those een words, is a living being. And the instrumental singular is panina. And so this panina is also an instrumental. And so that is this long slightly complicated sentence. I hope it makes sense now. And of course, the question that arises after the statement is katamehi panchahi. By what five? Or with which five? So notice that the interrogative pronoun and the number are declined in the instrumental plural. It's going with angehi. Which five qualities? And the answer that is given is Eta bhikkhave Raja Chakavati Atanyucha hoti Damanyucha Matanyucha Kalanyucha Parisanyucha. And so here, word here is Ida, O monks, the Raja Chakavati, a wheel-turning monarch, is hoti. And then we have these special kinds of words that we started to explain at the end of our last session together. So, atta, we can just take this atta with the aspirated T, is a word that probably here means the good, the beneficial. It's from the Sanskrit word artha. And this is made into an abstract noun which is formed by taking the root of janati, which is to know, and the root of that would be nya, plus a suffix of a long u. And so the verb to know, nya, plus this u come all together, and they form this big word with this double palatal. So putting that all together, it means one who knows what is good, one who knows what is beneficial. So again, it's atta plus the root nya plus that long u, and it's making it a noun. So this wheel-turning monarch is one who knows what is good, and cha damanyu, one who knows the Dhamma, and one who knows matta. So that would mean the right measure in a literal sense. And one who knows the time, kalanyu. Kala is time, so this would be the proper time, the right time to do things. And parisa, which we've had recently, the assembly, one who knows the assembly. I guess one who knows how things work in the halls of politics. And so these are the 5 positive qualities of a wheel-turning monarch. So maybe I'll now ask for a volunteer to do our next sentence, which is a restatement of the same thing. Okay. We have Fiacra. Good evening.
Hi, good evening. Great, thanks.
So maybe read it for us first, and then we'll have your translation.
Okay. Imehi ko bhikkhave panchahi angehi samanagato raja chakavati dhamaneva chakang pavateti tang hoti chakang apativatiang kenachi manusa bhutena pachatikena parnina.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so by these 5 attributes,
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I don't mean to keep interrupting, but I just want to point it out on the screen for everyone.
Sure.
So imehi would be these, and panchahi angehi would be 5 attributes. Very good.
So, O monks, the 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 wheel turning king is possessed. Is possessed of them. Yeah. So with or should I say, putting it simply, possessed of these 5 attributes amongst the wheel turning monarch turns the wheel with justice. Is that right?
Yeah, or solely by Dhamma, or solely
Dhamma.
righteously, perhaps.
Solely righteously. Yeah.
But that sounds a little awkward too, but I think you get the gist of it.
Yeah. Then which wheel shall not be turned back by any opposing being in human form. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so by any kenachi, anyone, and then that's further qualified by manusa, bhutena, pachatikena, and panina, right?
Yeah.
So how did you translate that last few words again?
So I said by any opposing being in human form. So
Okay. But yeah, and then maybe we can also, I think I would take panina separately, by any living being.
by any living being. So we'd say by any opposing human or by any living being. Could you put it "or" in there, or?
I would say by any opposing creature in a human form. That would be a literal answer. And or by any living being. I guess what's sort of implied here is that some beings might assume the form of a human, but not really be. It's a little odd to me, frankly, but I am trying to give a very literal type of translation.
Interesting.
Okay,
Yeah. Great, thank you.
you're welcome. Okay, good. Okay, maybe now for the next one, we can take another volunteer. I want to point out the grammatical point number 4. Maybe I'll call that up very quickly here from my scan I made. Is this? No, this is the wrong one. But I'll just tell you that the word araha, arahata, or arahant, which means a worthy one, has a slightly irregular nominative, which is arahang. And so that's what we see here. So maybe we'll take Hui Lin to read us and translate our next sentence.
Right. Evam mewa ko bhikkhave panchahi dhammehi samana gato. Tathagato arahang sama sambuddho dhamman neva anuttarang dhamma chakang pawatati. Tam hoti chakang apativatiyang samanena wa brahmanena wa devena wa marena wa brahmana wa kenachi wa lokasmin.
Very nice.
So I put it down as likewise or similarly, indeed, amongst endowed with 5 qualities or attributes.
Yes.
The Buddha, the worthy one.
So that's, you're translating
perfectly fully enlightened one.
Right. So you're translating the Buddha as the Tathagata. Maybe we should keep it as the Tathagata. Yes. Okay, it's up to you.
Oh, okay. All right.
It just seems like that's a word that's kind of impossible to translate. The Tathagata, the worthy one. Do you translate the Arahant? Very good. Go ahead, please. Sorry.
The perfectly fully enlightened one. Yeah. Sorry. The perfectly fully enlightened one, righteously set in motion, the incomparable or unsurpassed wheel of, I put it down as wheel of truth, or Dhamma wheel.
Unsurpassed, and what was your word? That was fine too.
The wheel of truth.
But how did you translate anuttarang, that adjective?
Unsurpassed or incomparable.
Incomparable. Okay, fine.
Incomparable or unsurpassed.
Okay. Okay.
Which wheel is irreversible by
Pativatyang.
any opponent, by anyone, or by any recluse,
Samanena.
Brahmins,
or Brahmins,
deity,
or Deva.
Deva, all right, sorry, Mara, or the evil one.
Yeah.
By the creator God,
Brahmin
or by
gods.
anyone in this world.
Very good. Or by anyone in this world. Sorry?
Yes.
Yeah.
I took it down as creator God or Brahmin. All right. Thank you.
Very good. Yeah, so Brahmuna would be the instrumental form of the Brahmin gods, those very lofty realm gods. Yes, or by Kenachi, anyone in the world, lokasming. That would be our locative. Good, thank you. And so, of course, the question comes, Katamehi Panchahi, by what five? And also notice, interestingly, that the king, the qualities are mentioned as angas, but the Buddha has dhammas. I'm not entirely sure what the significance of that would be, but we do see it here. Okay, maybe we'll try with Bonita to give us the next sentence.
Hi, Stephen.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
So the next sentence is Katamehi Panchehi.
Yeah, and you can go on.
What five? That's from Ida, no?
Yes, please.
Bhikkhave Tathagato Arahang Samma Sambuddho Atanyu Dhammanyu Matanyu Kalanyu Parisanyu. So I translated it as, "Hear, O monks, the realized one, the deserving one, the fully enlightened one, is one who knows what is beneficial, is one who knows the doctrine, is one who knows moderation, is one who knows the proper time, and is one who knows the assembly."
Excellent. Thank you.
I took the Tathagato as not Buddha. I kind of...
I liked it. Of course, we understand that these are three words for the Buddha.
But that's how I took it, like the realized one. I know it's Tathagato is a nominative singular, right?
Yes, they're all nominative
even
singular.
Arahang is the nominative singular of Arahant, as you said, right?
Correct.
And even Samma Sambuddha is also nominative.
Right, these are three synonyms.
I took those three as three different words.
Fine, very good.
That's how you want. Yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you. Okay, now we have the last one, and I think we have Ken. Hi, Ken.
Hi. In Mexico, Bhikkhave Panchahi Dhamehi Samanagato Tathagato Arahang Sama Sambuddho Dhamaneva Anuttarang Dhammachakang Pavateti Tang Hoti Dhammachakam Apati Vatiyang Samena Va Brahmanena Va Devena Va Marena Va Brahmuna Va Kenachi Va lokasminti.
Yes.
Okay. Indeed, O monks, the Tathagata, Arahant, fully enlightened Buddha, endowed with these 5 things, rightly sets in motion the incomparable Dhamma wheel. This Dhamma wheel is not reversible by any recluse or any Brahmin or any Deva or any devil or Brahma or anyone or in the world.
Yes. So that last va seems a little redundant because kenachi lokasming is certainly one thing, not 2 items. But
Right.
very well done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So that is this reading. If there are any questions about it, any grammatical points, I'm happy to try to answer. I think we have one from Shirosha.
Hi, Stephen.
Hi.
I just had a question about the word Dhammin Eva. How do you break it up, and could you explain exactly what that means? I'm still confused about how it...
Well, okay. So Dhamma would mean the Dhamma. It's a confusing word because it can mean so many things. But here I think what it means is according to Dhamma, according to the way things are, or maybe righteously, sometimes it's translated. And it's a word in the instrumental, Dhammanena, by Dhamma, or with Dhamma, that's instrumental. And it's stuck together with this Eva word, which in this case means something like just, alone, or solely.
Oh, I see. Okay. All right. Okay, thank you.
You got it now?
Yes, okay, I see now. And once you broke it up, it makes more sense.
Okay, I'm glad.
Thank
you for asking. Okay, I think we have a question from Bonita.
Yeah, hi, Stephen.
Hi.
Like, I know you mentioned about that word panchehi dhammehi
Yes.
when it came to the Tathagata.
Right.
So when you translate that word, are we just taking it as like angehi, like endowed with the 5? I was
That's
a
a
little
good question.
confused with that, but I used what was at the beginning of the sentence, like the angehi.
Mm-hmm.
So is there any other way that we could use? That's a plural, right? Dhammehi.
Yeah, Angehia and Dhammehi are both instrumental plurals.
Instrumental. So is there another way that we could use that word in that sentence?
Right, to make it different, to capture the
because
difference.
otherwise we are like, it seems like we were doing the same thing from taking the same.
Yeah,
Just a clarification.
It's a good
possible.
question. Let me look at John Kelly's translation and see how he managed it. He uses 5 qualities. I think in both cases. Qualities. Yeah, it's a good question. I can't really think of a difference. Perhaps some other translators have kind of come up with a different, but I don't really see much difference myself. So sorry about that.
It's hard to translate that word dhammehi and try to fit into the context in that sentence.
I would say that it means the qualities that the Buddha has, and which are listed below. So I don't really see the word having a different meaning than anga in this context.
Okay, thank you very much, Stephen.
You're welcome. I think I had a hand, but it seems to have gone away from Jillian. Maybe she withdrew her hand, I'm not sure. If you'd like to re-raise your hand, please feel free. Otherwise, we can move on to lesson 5. Okay, going once, going twice. Okay, so lesson 5. Maybe we'll take a quick look at the grammar for 5. So, as you know, I'm not too fond of going through the grammar as grammar because I think that it's much more effective and interesting for everybody to see how it works within the context of the suttas themselves. But of course we see here the full declension, we've only had a little bit of it, of the personal pronouns. And so we just have to know that they are always declined fully. This is what they are. A very important thing to know are the so-called enclitic forms. These are the short forms of the above personal pronouns, which can only exist within the middle or within the sentence. They can never start a sentence. So, you know, as we can start a sentence with ahang, I, we could not start a sentence with me. So it's interesting also for English speakers, I would say that by me and for me is represented by the Pali word me. It's like the same word. And so we see this overlap of cases between the various enclitics. And we have to only by context deduce which case is being used. Sometimes it's a little obscure, but we almost always can understand the context. It's also interesting that no is we, which for those people who speak languages like Spanish and French might see a relationship to something like notre or nosotros, and vo, like votre. And so I think there might be a connection there. Not entirely sure, but it helps me remember it. And then now moving on, we have finally the vant and mant nouns and adjectives. We've been talking about these since the very beginning because of our homage to the Buddha, the Bhagava, or the Bhagavant. And so we've always said Bhagavato, and I've always said that is a dative, and finally we can be officially looking at the full declension of that. Here it's being used with silava, silavant, silavato. Don't confuse, as I have often done, the nominative and the instrumental, silava and silavata. They could look a little similar. The variants on the other side of the slash, the right side, which are sometimes called the so-called strong forms, are much, much less common, and I really wouldn't worry about them at all for now. Really focus one's attention on the first entry. Silava, silavantang, silavato, silavata, silavati. And they can exist in neuter and feminine. So just as a quick example of a feminine, so we have the word, say, sati, mindfulness, and we can talk about one who is mindful as satima, like an adjective, satima, but a female person who is mindful would be a satimati. So that would be a feminine word, and it tells us here we have this I, like silavati would be silava in the feminine. So these words, as they function as nouns or adjectives, must correctly represent the gender to which they refer. So if we're looking at, say, the Therigatha, the verses of the ancient great female arahants, the Teras, we would see words like satimati, silavati. Those are the feminine. And now we finally have the full declension of present participle, and we can see how much they are related to the vant and mant endings, and that is why they're placed here together. And we've been talking for several weeks, I think, now about how, for instance, the nominative of a present participle can have this gachanto, or what I've been calling the short form gachang. And there it all is for you. here was what I was trying to find. I didn't find it in time, but we talked about the word arahant has the nominative arahang, nominative singular arahang, which we just had in our reading. Okay. And we have past participles. I don't want it to get too overwhelming. We've talked about actually past participles for a long time because they almost always function as adjectives, and we've been looking at them, like sutta and gutta and bhutta, which I talked about a little bit today. So maybe we don't need to talk too much more about this, and we can talk about these specific cases or instances in the text as much as we can get up to today and in our final class. So, here are the Lesson 5 initial readings. Again, from the Anguttara Nikaya, now from the Book of Forbes, the Brahmana Vagga, about Brahmins. And this sutta is specifically about a Brahmin who appears with fairly good frequency in the Pali Canon, named Vasakara. And he was a pretty well-known person, famous in a sense. He was the chief minister of Magadha, the kingdom of Magadha, and he was working for the king named Ajatasattu, who was the son of Bimbisara. You might know that Bimbisara came to a very sad end because his son, along with Devadatta, as the stories say, conspired to take over Magadha by, I think, literally starving his father to death, and then took over the whole kingdom in cahoots with Devadatta. So Vasakara was working for him as sort of a chief minister, and he was sent off to ask questions to the Buddha, who of course was at this point rather well known in the area. And it's also interesting to me to say that we see here, and we see so often, where the Buddha is interacting not only with recluses in the forest, but with upper echelon political figures. That he was not somebody who actually refused to get involved with politics. He talked with what today would be, ambassadors, people like that, very senior members of government, we might say, Vasakara. So, here we have this sutta. So maybe the first thing I'll mention is this vocative that we see here in red, Bo Gotama. Of course, we know Gotama is the vocative for our Buddha, Gotamo. And we have this vocative Bo, which is extremely hard to translate. It means literally something like sir, but it's used in other words, when the Buddha is addressed this way, Bo Gotama, it shows that he's being addressed by a person who is not acknowledging the Buddha to be the Buddha, and so to speak, that he's not part of this spiritual movement or group or sangha. He is an outsider who is speaking to the Buddha, we might say, in a respectful way, but not in a way that, for instance, his monks would address him. Because the monks of the time, the Buddhist monks of the time, would never refer to the Buddha as Bo Gotama. This is not nearly or not sufficiently reverential. And so we're tipped off when we see this type of address, this mode of address, that the Buddha is interacting with somebody sort of from the outside, who might be, say, a little suspicious of the Buddha and all he's said to be. So, Bo Gotama, very hard to translate. I think Venerable Bodhi uses master, which kind of works. we can't really use Sir, because if we said Sir Gautama, it would start to sound like we're talking about ancient knights of the Round Table. Sometimes maybe it could be even omitted. I've even seen Bo translated as bro, which sounds a little silly, but in a way it kind of captures the sense of it, that it's a little bit of a leveling kind of address. It's not a super reverential type of address. Okay, so that is the Bo Gautama thing. So I'll read this whole sentence. Janaya nuko Bo Gautama asapuriso asapurisang asapuriso ayang bhavangti. And so our sentence starts with, I hope we recognize now, a verb in the optative form of the verb, which is not a tense really, because it doesn't tell us a time period. It's more of a possibility, a condition, an option. And it's going with this nu, which is called an enclitic, interrogative enclitic, which tips us off that we're seeing a question. And so putting these two words together, we might translate that as, can one know? Could one know? So that's janaya. So by the way, I should have mentioned that janaya is the optative form of the verb janati, which we talked about a moment ago as having its root nya. So janati in the optative, third person singular, janaya, nuko. Is it, or could one know, Master Gautama, asapuriso asapurisang? So asapuriso is the subject. So could maybe we can say a wicked person know asapurisam of another wicked person? Asapuriso ayang bhavang. And so ayang is our demonstrative pronoun. This. Bhavang means person, or sometimes it's translated as a fellow, because puriso is also a person. And so to differentiate the two, we might translate bhavam as a fellow, a person. Of course it's a person. Is this person a wicked person? And so one more time, the meaning or the translation of this sentence is, Master Gautama, could a wicked person know of a wicked person, this fellow is a wicked person? Right? And maybe I should mention something about the word sapuriso. And so this is, of course, the negated version of sapurisa. Sapurisa is a good person. So asapurisa would be a bad person, a wicked person. But what I'm trying to get at here is this prefix sa, which we've had in several contexts already. And so we've had the sa mean one's own, like sachittang, one's own mind. And we've also had the sa in another sense, which is accompanied by, like sadevaka, samara, sambrahma, with devas, with mara, with brahma. That's the sa, as I've suggested, could be thought of as being related to saha, with, together. But this sa seems to be a third kind, which didn't seem to be mentioned in this grammatical section number 8, if you've looked at it, because this sa is actually related to, as I understand it, the present participle of the verb ati, the verb to be ati, which is sant, being, but it takes on this extended meaning of good. And so this sant, which is, as I've just said, the present participle of ati, which would be being, because ati is a verb to be, has this sense of good. So this sa has the sense of a good person, sappuriso. But of course it's negated in this sentence, so it's a bad person. So this minister, Vasakara, asked a very interesting question, actually, which is essentially, could a bad person be able to tell if another person is bad? Interesting question. And the answer that we are receiving from the Buddha here is, atananko etang brahmana anavakaso yang asapurisang janeya asapuriso ayang bhavang ti. And so the word atanang, and together with etang, has the sense of this is impossible. And with the ko, maybe we could say this is definitely or certainly impossible. Brahmana. So notice he refers back to Vasakara in the vocative for Brahman, O Brahman. And then he further goes on to say it's unavakaso, can't be, impossible, cannot be. These words are very similar. That a bad person could know, Janeya, of another bad person. This fellow is a bad person. So I hope you're beginning to see the way that this optative is used in this sort of questioning, these hypotheticals. And we also see this interesting idiomatic use of etang atanang. So literally, tanang is related actually to the verb titati and the root da, to stand. And it would mean in this place or is known. So this, it would have a literal sense of this is not known, but that is not a good way to translate it. So we translate it as it in the sense that it's not known, it's impossible. It can't be this way. So that's atanang, etang. And anavakaso is also cannot be. Okay. Maybe we can ask for a volunteer to do our next sentence. Or maybe I'll ask, okay, we have Jillian. Hello there. Good morning, Jillian. Oh, you've muted again. Hello?
I can't unmute myself.
I hear you fine.
Oh, okay, then the error message is weird. Okay.
So can you read for us from this sort of third section here, Janeya Panabogotama?
Janayapana Bogotama, Asapuriso Sapurisang, Sapuriso I am Bhavangti.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Would it be possible to know, in England we could probably get away with Mr. Gautama. It'd be a bit formal in Australia.
I would say to not use the word would, but rather use the actual nominative. Would a asapuriso.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yes. Would a wicked person be able to know of a good person?
Good.
This person is good.
Right. Or this
Yeah.
fellow is a good person would be a more literal translation.
Yeah.
But as you've said, it's correct. So we have this word bhavang, which actually to me seems to be the present participle of bhavati, to be. So being, this being, but really it means a bhavang in this sense. That would be the short form, right? That it's a person or we translate it as maybe a fellow, this guy. And is this fellow, ayang, of course, is that very close demonstrative pronoun, this person, and it's being equated, sapuriso. So could you give us your whole translation of the sentence just one more time, please?
Could Master Gautama, could a wicked person know of a good person that is a good person? That person is a good one.
Okay, good.
Yes.
Right. So we have this sort of quote with the T. That's the thing that would be thought, the thought bubble of the asapuriso, right? Sapuriso ayang bavang? Is this guy a good person? Right. And could you then go on for us? Do the next sentence.
Etampiko brahmana atanang anavakaso yang asupuriso sapurisang janyaya sapuriso ayang bhavangti.
Okay.
Okay, now Etampiko, yikes.
Do you want a little help?
I think I need a little help, please.
Okay. And is anyone willing to jump in who can raise their hand very quickly, or I can help? Wow, suddenly everyone's hands have gone down. Oh,
Okay.
wait. No, we have somebody. We have Ken to the rescue. Ken, are you there?
Yes.
Okay, so tell us about this. Just tell us about etang piko brahmana atanang anavakaso. Tell us about, explain that to us.
Well, I had it as indeed Brahman. That also is impossible. It cannot be.
Right, so indeed, I guess would be the ko.
Okay.
And the etang is that. Also, there's the p, and it's being equated with atanang, impossible. And it is also anavakaso, can't be. Jillian, do you see that now?
Sort of. I'm sorry, I did miss the last class altogether.
Okay. So the word etang with
is-
atanang would be that this can't exist. It's not possible.
Okay, yes.
And so etang piko atanang, putting that together would be indeed or certainly this too is impossible. And it's can't be that young,
Yes.
asapuriso, that a bad person would
person
know of a
of
good
a
person.
person.
And here's the
This-
thought bubble. Sapuriso
this good
ayang
fellow is a
bhavang.
good person.
Very
Yeah,
good. You get it now?
Yes, I will need to go back over it.
Okay, but as long as you start to get the
Yes, I
gist,
do.
that's what's
Yes.
important.
I do.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Stephen.
You're welcome. Okay. So do we have a volunteer for the next sentence, which is kind of the converse? Okay. I think we have Jim.
Hi, Stephen.
Hi. So we're up to sapuriso sapurisang, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Wait, I just lost. Okay, yes. Janaya Nuko Bo Gotama. Sapuriso Sapurisam. Sapuriso Ayam Bhavanti.
Okay. Tell us about that.
So, Mr. Gotama,
Okay.
would it be possible that a good person would know of a good person this fellow is a good person.
Very good. Exactly right. Good. Thank you. Okay. Now we'll have Shirosha try the next sentence with tanang vijati, this sort of interesting idiom.
Oh.
Yes, I hear you now. So, tanang vijati, how would you translate that?
Do you want me to read it first or?
Okay, sure. First, let's read it.
Tanan ko etam brahmana vijati yam sapuriso sapurisam janeya sapuriso ayam bhavanti. So, tanam ko etam, indeed that is possible, Brahmin. And I translated vijati as clearly. Oh, certainly.
It really would be translated, vijati, tanang, etang tanang vijati has the literal sense of this place is found, or this place is known. So vijati has this is related to, of course, vidya or avidya, and it's to know. So it has the literal sense of this tanang is known, this place. But of course, that's a very literal translation. It's not a good translation because this is an idiomatic sentence. So it's generally translated more like this is possible.
Oh, okay.
Because we can't say in English, this place is found or this place is known, which is what it literally says, but this place is known has the meaning in English of it is possible.
Oh, I see. Okay. I just thought Vija because related to Avija as being delusion, so it's more clear. So it clearly.
Oh, well let me
in that sense.
Let me. So we have the verb. I'll write it here. Vindati, which is from that root vid and Veda. Actually, the word Veda and vid are related to this type of knowing. And there's a verb vedati actually, which is to know, and it's related to the word vijnana, which is translated often as feeling. It's an aggregate. And then there's what's called a passive form, which is vijati, which is much more common than vindati. Vindati is actually a little bit rare. But vijati, which also means to know, is quite common.
Okay.
And this type of knowing takes on a special meaning in Buddhism as vidya and avidya, which would be, I think Venerable Bodhi translated it as true knowledge or not true knowledge, lack of true knowledge. So that's how these words are all related. Vindati, Vedati, and Vijati.
Okay.
But maybe all you have to know right now is that Vijati means to know.
No. Okay. So in that sense, indeed, that is possible. It is possible that a virtuous man, it is possible that a virtuous man can know a virtuous man. That's, I translated asapurisam as virtuous.
Fine.
To know a virtuous man as this person is a virtuous person.
Yes, right. So it takes one to know one, apparently. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, and now we have Mary.
Hello.
Hi, can you read from Etang Pico? Oh, no, from Janea Pana. Yeah.
Janea Pana Bogotama Sapuriso Asapurisam. Asapuriso Ayang Bawang Ti.
Mm-hmm.
Should I read the second?
Let's translate this first.
Oh. Master Gotama. On the other hand, a virtuous man would know that person is a wicked person.
Right. And how would you translate Asapuriso Ayang Bavang?
That individual is a wicked man.
Right. So it has the sense of Janea Sapuriso. So could a good person know, Master Gautama, of a bad person? And here's that direct speech thought bubble. This person is a bad person? Yes, now can you read for us the next sentence, please?
Etang piko brahmana, tanang wijati yang sapuriso asapurisang janeya. Asapuriso ayang bawang ti.
Uh-huh.
Brahmana. Indeed, this is possible.
Yes.
The virtuous man could know that is a wicked man.
That's right.
That individual is a wicked man.
Very good. And I liked your translation of indeed this is possible. That's very, very nice translation of etang tanang vijati.
I have a question.
Yes, please.
May I?
Sure.
I want to ask why in sentence asapuriso ayang bawang ti, asapuriso is the declension is nominative, isn't it?
I'm not exactly sure where you are. Is it the sentence you read or above?
Yes. Asapuriso ayang bawang ti. That asapuriso declensions is
yes. So
nominative.
asapuriso is a nominative, masculine. Abovang is also a nominative.
Why it's not accusative?
Because when we equate two things, what's predicated or what's on the other side of the is also in the same nominative. So if I say Stephen is teaching, well, that would not be a good one. Say if I Stephen is blue, the blue and Stephen would be in the same nominative case, not the accusative.
I have the second question.
Okay.
When it comes to optative mode,
yes,
how to differentiate between janeti and janati? Because both will be janeya, isn't it?
So you're asking what's the difference between janati and janeya in terms of present indicative versus optative?
Yes, both will be janeya.
Janeya is what we have here. So it's the optative, so it has a connotation of possibility or conditionality. One might know. One could know. That is this possible. One could know, one might know. But janati, the present indicative form of that same verb, is one knows. It's not a possibility. It's simply one knows it. It's not one might know it. You see, in these sentences, it's a sort of question: is this possible to know it? But if it was expressed in the present indicative, it would be a certainty, not a possibility. Yes? Does that answer your question?
Actually, no. I'm sorry. I mean, janeti and janati, if they change into optative mode, both will become janeya.
Oh, I see. Because janeti is more of a causative sense than janati, and they both have the same optative. It seems to me that the meaning would be extremely similar. Oh. Yeah. I don't really know offhand. I would have to look at it in a context.
Okay. Thank you, Stephen.
Okay. You're welcome. Okay. Any final questions about this reading? I think we have a question from Christopher.
Oh yes, with the Janea Nuko, the nu, is that a first person plural?
It's an interrogative participle.
Okay, so it's not the nu enclitic.
There's no nu enclitic. There's a no enclitic.
Oh, okay, that was good.
But nu is interrogative. It's not referring to a person at all. It's marking that a question is being asked.
Okay. And also in that say that same line where it's sapuruso sapurisam, the sapurisam is, that one is accusative. Is that right? Or is, we've been translating it as know of a good person, or we've been translating it as if it's genitive.
That's right. It seems to be the object of janeya, right? Okay. It's the accusative object of the optative janeya, but it's to make it work in English, we are, as you say, translating it with a genitive quality. It's true.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And Ken?
Nang are dotted, and the two T's in sutam are not dotted. Is there any difference in pronunciation between those dotted T's and the undotted T's?
Yes, but where's the undotted T's? I don't see it.
Up at the title where the Vasakara Sutang.
Yeah, so the dot below the consonant indicates that it's what's called retroflexed. So it's a different vagga or class of consonants, and it's pronounced in a different part of the mouth. So sutta would be right with the tongue behind the front teeth. T, right? Like sort of like a regular American T.
Right.
But the dot below the T's indicates a different position called retroflex, which means that in fact the tongue is back. It's not a sound we have very much in English. So it would be atanang. So the tongue goes back, titati, as opposed to titati, titati. So that it's a retroflex position of the tongue, and that is indicated by those dots. And we see it for T's and D's.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Christopher, did you have another question? I see your hand up. No, maybe not. Okay, we have a few more minutes. Maybe we'll start with this. And so this is a famous sutta that happens actually or occurs twice in the canon. Here I've written that it's occurring in the Majjhima, but it's also happening in the Sutta Nipata. So this section is in verse. Yohi kochi manu sesu gorakang upajivati etang vaseta janahi kasakoso nabramano. So here, our grammatical section number 6 will tell us that this yohi kochi with the locative has the sense of whoever among people. So yohi kochi with the locative in this sense has whoever among people. So kochi is one of those indefinite pronouns. We recognize yo as the indirect. So, but it has the sense of whoever among people. And then we go to the verb upajivati, which has the sense of depends on for a living or makes a living. And then the object of that verb is go rakang, which we probably can recognize as the verb rakati, which we've had several times, to protect, plus the word go, which is the cow, a cow, or cows. And so one who protects cows tends, we say in English, we tends cattle. So one who for whoever among people makes a living tending cattle, evang vaseta. I think we have somebody unmuted. Evang vaseta janahi. So here, this verb, janahi, is janati, the verb to know in the second person singular imperative. You should know. So you should know thus, vaseta, kasakoso na brahmano. He is a farmer, not a Brahmin. So this is one of the Buddha's famous statements about what makes and what does not make one a Brahmin. It's sort of a stunning social justice statement in a way, we might say, in modern day. So the two verbs that are being juxtaposed in this sutta are upajivati, which takes an accusative, and just jivati, which takes the instrumental, as you can see. They both really seem to have the same meaning, but they take different cases for some reason, and that's mentioned in our section number 10. So maybe in our last few minutes we'll have one person who would maybe like to volunteer to do the next verse, which is very similar, just a few words different. Okay, Pat?
Hi, Stephen.
Hi. First read it out for us, please.
Okay. Yohi kochi manusesu putu sippena jivati evan vaseta janahi sippiko so na brahmano. So whoever among humans, and then this thing has to do with crafting, or is it craftsman of some kind, makes a living creating crafts? Not quite sure.
Right. So makes a living. Putu means many or various.
Okay.
And sipa is a craft. So makes a living by many different crafts.
Some sort of tradesperson or something to that effect, or like a craftsperson, I guess.
Like an artisan or a craftsperson, yeah.
Okay. You must know, Vaseta, because he's a craftsperson, or yeah, he is a craftsperson, not a Brahmin.
Right. So the so is the he, and he is being equated. He is a sipiko, one who makes crafts, an artisan. He is not a Brahmin. Okay, good. Thank you, Pat.
Thank you.
Okay, maybe we'll have to leave it here, and we'll have to see how much we can fit in our last class. And then we have our Dhammapada. I want to mention quickly, because Diane, eagle-eyed Diane, pointed out to me that my grammatical point in the first verse of the Dhammapada in my file is incorrect. Is an incorrect reference. It should not be pointing us to number 7. So please strike that out. I apologize for the confusion. Okay, so if there's any final questions about material we've covered tonight or today, this would be a good time to ask. Maybe I'll ask Diane too, if there are any questions from you or anyone you know.
Nobody's talking over here, so no questions.
No questions from you either. Okay. All right. Well, it seems like if there are no questions, then everyone has grasped this very well, which is very nice to hear. Okay. So we'll have to wrap it up in our final class, class number 19. And I think it's going to be great that we'll make it through pretty much all of the lesson 5 initial readings, which I hope propels you to further and copious Pali study in your lives. So thank you all very much, and I'm looking forward to seeing you all in our final class in a couple of days. Happy studying. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen.
Thank you.
Bye, Stephen.